Welcome to the roadmap module in CS206. We will cover long-term, short-term roadmap, layered, graphical, process, and product release. Let's begin with the product roadmap. During week 2, we discussed the requirements document, or sometimes we call this product requirements document, PRD. In this document, it describes a roadmap, and we will cover roadmap in detail here. And the roadmap is used to align stakeholders. So the product requirements engineering will produce a PRD which will align the stakeholders, and this includes the sales, marketing, the management, executive, the investors, the developers, the quality assurance, and the customers, as well as the other users. So we will have the product roadmap, which includes the product backlog, which will be mostly used by the developers and the product manager. And we will also look at the release planning, which will include the release backlog, and this is part of the marketing strategy on how to release the product. A roadmap is a flexible and iterative technique for strategy and long-term planning for the company. And the company or the product organization can create a roadmap for one product, a family of products, or a portfolio of products. So this allows the product owner to plan ahead, provide a timeline of what products and when to release this product. And this roadmap allows the product owner to plan strategy and map it to action plans. And it usually contains a list of features or themes and when these product features and themes will be released over time. So this roadmap allows the communication from the product owner to the rest of the stakeholders, and it must depend on the product vision and techniques and research and marketing and development resources that's available. As described, the roadmap depends on the company's vision and goal. It should align with those visions. And the roadmap can be internal or external. The internal roadmap is used by the internal staff of the company, executive, product management, developers, and engineers. The external roadmap are usually only for the customers, and there are tools that are used to help produce this roadmap, such as the one listed on the slide. We cover the layered roadmap. There are 3 layers: the market, product, and technology. And this layer roadmap is defined using a dependent graph, as you can see on the slides. And this dependency shows you how the market is dependent on the product versions based on the features that are developed for each versions, and that on the other hand is dependent on the technology that's available or enabler. So at the highest level, the market layer is strategically planned based on the marketing strategy, and is divided into milestones. And this milestone depends on the product layer, which contains a coarse grain, fine, and later map into a fine grain roadmap that goes into specific features that is included into different versions of the product. And all these product versions depends on the technology layer, which contains the components, framework, standards, and ICT architecture that the versions depend on and must have in order to complete. Now, if this is a software service instead of a software product, then the enablers could be the quality of the service and the cost of each lab enablers. So in a layered product roadmap here is an example where it's divided into market, products, and technology. And let's look at the technology. So the technology includes maybe a speech recognition, a deep learning, a UI dashboard, and also more details about how to test the deep learning, how to refine the UI dashboard and the social platform, and finally the debugging iteration that needs to be enhanced. And while they are being developed, the technology layer is being developed, the product will provide a prototype, a minimum viable product, a version 1, version 2, and a final version. And the features that depends on this technology will have to be developed when the technology are available. And this will be provided into the market in layers based on the milestone and the features that's available. So we did mention that roadmaps are usually long-term, and that looks at 2 to 5 years. But in the development product management group internally, we can have short-term roadmaps, and these short-term roadmaps are 3 to 6 months usually. And the 3 to 6 months could frequently change, and it depends on the resource and the limitations of the developer teams and the necessary testing and results from the testing and the feedback from the users. So the short term are more tactical version of the roadmap, whereas the long term are more strategic, longer version of the vision that needs to be completed in the 3 to 5 years. So you do not want to change the long term roadmap frequently, or it will be quite difficult to plan ahead. And these are usually released externally to the investors, whereas the short term are not released externally to the investors. So let's look at different types of graphical roadmap. The graphical roadmap has 3 types of graphic structure: tree, vector, or bar. The tree graphical roadmap shows a list of features, and it starts with the core, the root of the features, and how they are grouped together as you go along the branches or the leaves. So they add more features, more fine features, and additional enhanced features as you grow. So the vector is the representation of one of those features across time, how it has advanced and how it replaced the previous technology. The bar graphics is a way to organize your capabilities of your product based on the features. So let's take an example. Grab has a lot of products. It has started from Malaysia, My Taxi, all the way to now in Southeast Asia. It has Grab Taxi, has Grab Bike, has Grab Chat. It has even Grab Pet, Grab Care. Recently has Grab Pay and Grab Food and gifts as well. So you take one of the feature and you looked at payment and Grab Pay, and you can describe the 3 structure of the this feature. So e-wallet, you will need to handle payment. You can have virtual cards, registration, chatbots, and so on. So these are all part of this feature, the e-wallet feature or theme for Grab Pay. So let's take one of the process, the KYC process, know your customer process, and see how it has evolved. So this know your customer process may initially start with a manual input, and then it may verify it with data that's been collected from various sources, and it may do image upload or a camera to take pictures of the customer face. Can use document character recognition to uh, to transform a image into a text. And in the future, it can use face recognition to map the facial expression, facial eyes and features that can verify it's the same person, which is now used a lot in KYC vectors. So an example of a Grab taxi feature bar written in a bar format is how to keep a text hail ride safe, and they use various rows to represent all the different techniques to keep the safety feature. So know who you ride with, and there are various features in the bar such as passenger validation, driver self-authentication, or even grab check. And then you can look at how you can get help when you need it. Live location sharing, share ride, emergency SOS, such things. And so on. You can build new and safer habits, and you can protect at every touch point. And those are the things that you use in a bar to identify a feature in the product. So now let's cover process and tool. The road mapping process is an important workshop or process that needs to be managed because it involves multiple stakeholders. So in a specific process of coming out with roadmap, you should involve all the stakeholders. So during the introduction, they will all be briefed on the objective of building the roadmap, and you could introduce the participants and their roles in the roadmap and the agenda ahead, so that you do not take up too much of their time. So you would want to brief everybody on the product vision, strategy, situation, current situation, their opportunity issues, the directives from the executive or the upper management, and the existing feasibility of the technology. So these are all important to get everybody or the stakeholder aligned. And then the team will work as a team to discuss and prioritize the known product concepts and features. And sometimes this involves long discussions that can debate on different point of view of how the product concepts and features might be important, different timeline. So they will explore all the possible sequences and the dependency across based on technology, based on market release, based on competitor analysis, based on vision of the product and the company direction, and so on. So eventually there has to be a consensus that everyone must agree on, and hopefully if there is no agreement, a leadership needs to take a strong stand to weigh in the pros and cons of each of these options that they have done. So let's look at a specific process on road mapping by the Norman Nelson's group, NNG. And he has 6 steps, and the first 3 steps is establish the goals, gather inputs, and create teams. This is similar to described earlier in the introduction. And then you need to prioritize the team, visualize share it, and then revisit and iterate all over again. But let's focus on the creating teams. When you're creating teams, you are grouping all the different features that need to be implemented in your roadmap. So it is important that you make sure that the visions and the business strategy and the model and all those are done, the value proposition and so on. So you identify your problem to solve, create a criteria to evaluate which one is more important for you. So you can use tools such as the customer journey map, the backlog, transcript from customer support and all that to help you identify all these problems that need to be solved. And then you list them all out into a inventory of potential problems, and then you group them into related stuff or teams that we have identified here, and then you organize and label them. And this will help you with the criteria to create the roadmap. So there are many tools. This is Alician's tool to build, share, use, and evolve. So tools are very useful because they can automate the building of the roadmap, and it provides trajectories and value proposition and constraints, dependency mapping. And it can be used to share across multiple users, stakeholders, and these are quite useful because some of the updates, as this is an iterative approach, needs to be shared in a speedy, immediate manner, so that all stakeholders, from the quality assurance to the testers to the visionary marketers, to understand what changes has been made. So you break down epics or product backlogs into user stories that eventually goes into action items that are provided for each stakeholders, the developers understanding what classes to develop, what modules to write, and the quality assurance understanding what input and output to test in a black box testing and integration testing and deployment as well. So you focus on short-term tactics that hopefully lead to and align long-term strategic goals, and do not deviate too much from your long-term plans that are in 2 to 5 years versus your 3 to 6 months short-term technique. And you don't want to change too much on your long-term plan, but sometimes you have no choice. So why use a tool to build a roadmap? In a product survey with 2,500 product manager, 23% of them uses spreadsheet. So is spreadsheet good enough? Why is it important to use tools? There are a few reasons. Two is you want a tool that captures strategic thinking. Using a tool allows you to trace from the product vision, plans, and goals down to your story board, to your user story, your testing plans, and so on. So it provides a way to capture all the way long-term visionary goals, all the way down to short-term planning. And it also helps you align the build team, especially when there are updates that needs to be informed across. So the tools are very good in doing that. It's a visual plan. It shows dependencies, resources that are required, impacts, change analysis, and things like that. So this is why it's important to use roadmaps. So roadmaps, if you use a Scrum methodology, you can look at teams, epics, stories, and tasks. So that is the level of granularity. So you start with heavy teams. They are mapped to your visions and your release backlog and all that. That can be broken up into an epic, which is a large body of work, and that eventually each functionality can be broken down into specific user story, and the specific discrete user story will be broken down into tasks that the user, the developer can develop. So let's look at Jira. Jira creates a roadmap, and the roadmap is by adding a epic. So from the team you go down to the epic, and the epic would be features, and these features would have dependencies with different types of child issues. So from there, you add dates from a duration of estimate of how long it takes to finish the feature down to specific calendar dates with start and end due dates, so that the project manager can plan ahead and make sure that the developers are on schedule. And you can also set different types of settings, and these settings helps different stakeholder look at the plan from high level to low short-term levels, and the dependency across them. And it can be exported as well if you want to take a screenshot of that timeline. So there are 4 types of roadmaps depending on your methodology. So you can have a team-based roadmap that's broken up into web, mobile, and UI design, and you can use infrastructure, new features, stickiness, and all those things. So those are all team-based. You can have a sprint where you break it down into different types of sprint, and for each sprint, the layers that you work on, you will have different parts of it that needs to be implemented, and this is done every sprint, and depending on the progress, it will be sprint oriented. Or you can be time-based, fuzzy time-based, because sprint is not time-based, it's not calendar-based. And sometimes for marketing, it's difficult to work around a sprint roadmap that could deviate based on somebody's vacation or a stumbling block in the technology development, architecture, dependency, and so on. So fuzzy time roadmap is more suitable in that sense, and they show what is in progress, what is soon to be done, and what is in the future, and what has been completed. So it gives a more fuzzy time base. Or you can use a agile-ish roadmap with quarters, and you break it based on quarters, and these are different methods of doing roadmaps. Okay, so you can be pure agile, no dates, you can be structured, or you can be fuzzy dates, or you can be quite waterfall dates oriented. Okay, so now let's look at product release. So in a product release, you look at how this customer will get your product, and that usually defines revenue models that you can depend on. And in a lot of development, you can break things down based on major and minor releases. So major releases would mean it can do the following bigger components, and then the minor would be how each of these components, additional small version of it can be released. So there is a selection process, and the selection process has certain criteria that can be time-based, value, or cost based. And hopefully you are smart enough to schedule this release in parallel, so that you can have continuous releases that can be used in the revenue model to charge continuously over a period of time. So if you have a deployment schedule, they need to a deployment team, site engineering, requirements engineering, you would need to plan that in that manner. So you have all the stakeholders, what value create, you have the product, how much it costs. So you study the feasibility based on the cost over the value that you create, and you would have a flexibility to go in between those two, cost versus value, and you will come up with a release plan. So you need to understand the release objective, prepare the release plan, and then generate and analyze. So some of the criteria that you look at is it based on value or cost or development structure. And there are also other types of criteria such as RISE, Kano, and Moscow. So reach, impact, confidence, and effort is a way to gauge how you release your product. Kano is customer satisfaction with each feature, and we will show you some examples later on. And Moscow is must have, should have, could have, or won't have. Okay, so your cost versus your value. Some product takes a long time to develop, such as Siri versus a cut and paste, and they have various types of value, and some value are better than others. So you try to get the low cost, high value product out because those are low hanging fruits, and then the high cost, sometimes low value, you may not want to work on it quickly unless they become a game changer or a requirement to compete as more competitors contain those product feature. So here is a graph to see which feature. So the closer to the 0 with a higher value is what you want to develop first, versus the high cost and low value to the right hand side. Okay, so let's look at the next thing. So let's look at an example of a roll-up by Canva. So here is their product manager explaining how Canva roll out features.
We always roll out features as a percent. So if something is going out, so we launched the Glow Up recently, which is a total revitalization of Canva's interface. We start by rolling that out to 1%, then 5%, 10%, 20%, 100%. That lets you test load on servers. It lets you do quantitative and qualitative analysis of how people are receiving it. If there's any bugs, you can quickly catch them. So that's like standard operating procedure to roll out to increasing cohorts. Depending upon the type of product feature that you're rolling out, you then might look at it, slicing it in different ways. Geography can be useful in some of those examples. So in some of our geographies, we've rolled out different payment methods and how people interact with those, whether they prefer to opt for this credit card or a local provider, or maybe they prefer to buy credits from the local newsagent instead of like using their prepaid credit card. Like rolling that out, we've done that in a geographic basis to see how that affects how people subscribe and how long they stay subscribed for. So depending upon the feature, you can like slice and dice it differently.
So here you see how Canva plan their release, and it can be geographical or could be based on the testing load and so on. So let's look at another dimension. So roadmap is about strategy. You hopefully plan a roadmap based on the strategy that you have. It should not be based on a feature factory and all dependent on what kind of feature can you release quickly. So there should be a strategy to it. So unfortunately, based on a survey that's done, the more product are reactive than proactive, and you do want to be proactive. So let's listen to
this is going to piss off a lot of techies, but your product roadmap probably sucks. For most software companies, it reads like a schedule of disappointments. We can do a lot better. I got 4 quick thoughts. First, recognize that you're not in business to build features. You're in business to solve customer problems. Your roadmap should reflect that. Not a list of features with delivery dates, but a list of thematic customer problems you're trying to solve, along with target metrics that you're looking to move. You're not done when you ship the feature. You're done when you see the customer impact via that metric. And you'll probably have to iterate multiple times to get there. Second, because of this necessary iteration, putting hard delivery dates on solving these customer problems is nigh impossible. You can put delivery dates on shipping a feature or fixing a bug, but you cannot be sure on that date that you've actually solved the customer problem. Capture your roadmap in 3 big buckets: now, next, and later. I like to use calendar quarters for the bucket size. Now is what we're working on this quarter. Next is what we're likely to work on next quarter. And later is everything else, everything beyond that, things we might work on in the future. Third, the sales team is going to complain that they can't sell problem themes and iffy delivery dates. They can, but they'll need additional ammo. Provide a lens over each bucket with examples of the dev efforts you're undertaking to solve those customer problems. These all come with a grain of salt because you're going to have to iterate to get there, and you're not sure if and when they'll actually solve the customer problem. You may need to double down on one effort and not pursue another. Problems you're solving stay constant, but the features and fixes to get there need some wiggle room. Finally, I do not like splitting the product and technical roadmaps. I've seen way too many internal battles come from a lack of alignment when these lists are split. Tech debt resolution and infrastructure changes should be considered as dependencies for existing product efforts. Keep it all in one document. It's all work that the team has to do, and it's all in support of resolving customer problems. That's it.
Okay, so hopefully some of his advice is useful. It is a product manager's job is not easy. You have to balance between the marketing who wants concrete dates versus the developers who's doing a sprint that fluid and it goes here and then, and if you push them too much, they will quit your job. And so a product manager has lots of balancing to do. So hopefully review what this person said and understand that you are not a feature factory. You have to take some of the strategy in stride, and that's what a product manager do. You are not just firefighting to get one side to work with the other side. You are trying at the end to push everything to a strategic alliance that the company can benefit from. Okay, so let's look at Noah Weiss, who goes and talk about how products are managed and released in Google and how to keep up with change in different places. So these are good practical experience sharing that I think is important to understand the job of a product manager.
In Backroom, they used to have this model, they called it the 70-20-10 model. And it's actually a pretty fascinating way of thinking about just a product roadmap and the distribution within it. So 70% of the product teams were focused on what are things that are known, valuable things for our customers that are in some ways more incremental. 20% were new product areas that had already kind of taken off, but they were trying to further refine and incubate. So, after Gmail took off, how do you scale it to 1 billion users? And then 10% were the far out bets, the self-driving cars, the Android before Android existed, the building a web browser. And I think the thing that stuck out to me was the combination of deliberate approach to what the portfolio looked like and the constant kind of Larry and Surya refrain of whatever your ideas you bring to them, what would 10x a bigger scale look like? So I think that caused a level of ambition for product thinking at Google that it's kind of hard to afford at early stage startups, but I think is aspirational to bring to every company.
Can I ask, do you do the 70-20-10 at Slack?
It's funny. I feel like it almost became so well known for Google that it would feel a little bit cargo culting to bring it exactly. But we do talk a lot about kind of the portfolio and diversification within different product areas. So, we might ask a team, when you think about the breakdown of your roadmap for the next 2 quarters, where is it allocated? How much of this is maintenance, performance, and quality? How much of this is refining and kind of customer delight? And how much of this is you're incubating new ideas, you're trying out new levers? So we don't call it 70-20-10, but it's definitely part of how we look at the structure of productivity roadmaps and every team is different too. Even at Google, I would say that was at the corporate level, but take a team like AdWords, their allocation didn't look like 70-20-10. They might look like 95-5. So I think it's a interesting framework, but I don't think it is something that is like a perfect ratio to apply in every context.
Okay, so this bucket thing it doesn't have to be 70-20-10 exactly, but these 3 bucket things are quite useful if you're a product manager. list of features in these 3 buckets versus the earlier video where you break it out into soon, later, and future, late kind of scheduling buckets. So but don't be fixated with specific details of this bucket, and specifically 70%, 20%, 10%. It keeps changing. So let's listen a little bit more further on this.
Everything. You unlock it and then you have it forever. And I actually think a much more accurate model is that you unlock product market fit, you get to maintain it for a while, but you have to keep renewing it as your audience changes and as the world around you changes. So I think with Foursquare, we definitely had to go past the early adopters who were so motivated by discovering the world, seeing new places, novelty, and the social side of it. And then also the world changed. And that's really, I think, another part of the story with understanding how competition changes the backdrop with Instagram coming out, and really shifting how people viewed what it meant to share experiences in the real world.
Okay, so this is the final slide on the roadmap. It's an iterative approach. You shouldn't be too fixated with the technical terms of getting everything correct with the timeline and fixing the timeline, because the market change, the product fit change, and people evolve and the market evolve. So you do need to be flexible, and that's why a tool is important to keep everything sane. So there you have. So in this roadmap exercise, you look at the product market fit and all the life cycle that we have done in your customer research, and you want to build a roadmap. You want to have both short term and long term. The short term for the developers to understand what are the next 3 to 6 months feature, and then the long term would be high level view of the vision, direction, the themes that you want to get fixed for the product to be still in a business model that is acceptable. Okay, and then you present your roadmap. We are done.